and while at the memorial, you may use your cell phone camera, but out of respect to others, talking and texting are still not appropriate. The USS Arizona Memorial is now part of a larger national monument. The World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument encompasses different sites of the Pacific Theater, beginning with the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. The monument also includes 2 other memorials located on Ford Island, both for ships lost here during the attack. The USS Oklahoma and USS Utah memorials commemorate the loss of almost 500 sailors and Marines. In a few moments, you'll see a film that explains why Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, with actual footage of the attack. This film is about nations and conflict, a broad overview of this monumental war. But war is not just about what happens to nations and their leaders. It's also about the millions of individuals from all over the world, from all walks of life, whose lives were caught up by forces beyond their control. It's the story of life and death, heroism and sacrifice. Today at the USS Arizona Memorial, you'll come face to face with the names of some of these individuals. For the men of the Arizona, the story is a tragic one, as the bomb that destroyed the Arizona ended their lives even before they knew what was happening. There really is no wartime story to tell about these men. Many others, civilian and military, lived through the attack, and for the next 3.5 years endured incredible hardship and extreme horror. Please consider this during your visit today. The USS Arizona Memorial is just one of many memorials built to honor the dead and to remember the event. Memorials are places of learning and inspiration, reflection, and quiet contemplation. This film will undoubtedly answer many questions, but it will surely raise questions also. Hold on to your questions, and when you arrive at the memorial, a park ranger will be glad to answer them. Now, as the lights dim, you're going to take a journey to the past, back to December 7th, 1941.
Out in the waters of Pearl Harbor, a striking white monument seems to ride at anchor. It is a memorial to a fallen crew, to a sunken ship. A symbol of a day that was burned into the American memory. The day was December 7th, 1941. The day of Japan's surprise attack on the U.S. Pacific Fleet here at Pearl Harbor. The day of our entry into World War II. The memorial stands over the sunken hulk of the battleship Arizona. Many of the men who died aboard the Arizona that morning still lie below her decks. The ship on which they served is now their tomb. The memorial, a shrine to their memory. What happened here on that Sunday in December? Why was our fleet attacked? Why were so many killed? The road to war between the United States and Japan began long before Pearl Harbor.
From the Japanese advance, which is sweeping over great provinces of northern China.
In 1931, Japanese army extremists seized China's northern province of Manchuria. And in 1937, Japan launched a full-scale invasion of China. War began in Europe 2 years later. Japan watched as Nazi armies occupied the Netherlands and France. Soon Britain was under siege. Far away in Southeast Asia, those European powers had colonies rich in natural resources. Now their colonies were ripe for conquest by Japan, the Nazis' ally. But the United States had interests in Asia too.
American lives are endangered as the invaders are about to storm in.
We were outraged by Japan's aggression in China.
Victims of the calamity of war.
We couldn't allow Japan to dominate the Pacific. To deter Japanese aggression, the United States moved her Pacific Fleet out to its base at Pearl Harbor in the Hawaiian Islands.
West Virginia steams from New York Harbor to join the rest of the fleet, ordered to the Pacific.
The backbone of our fleet had always been our battleships, armored giants named for the states of the Union.
To stand on duty in the Pacific, the fleet of the United States.
The USS Arizona was one of them. She was launched in 1915, modernized in 1930, ready to cruise and fight in the vast Pacific. She was a small city gone to sea. More than 1,500 men served aboard her. Officers, seamen, cooks, carpenters, gunners, Marines, and airmen.
All hands, man your battle station.
She was protected by more than 8,000 tons of armor plating.
The Admiral on his flagship as he leads his squadron into action. The mythical battle ordered by the signal.
Her 14-inch guns could fire a shell 20 miles. In war games and exercises, she looked invincible. But the Navy was soon to learn that the age of the battleship was at an end. The age of the aircraft carrier had arrived. One man who knew it was Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, Commander-in-Chief of the Japanese Combined Fleet. Though opposed to war with the United States, Yamamoto believed that if Japan wanted to seize the European colonies in Southeast Asia, the U.S. fleet at Pearl Harbor would have to be knocked out first. He proposed to use Japan's first-line aircraft carriers and hundreds of planes in a massive surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. Before the Americans could rebuild their fleet, Japan could achieve her goals in Asia. It was a daring gamble. In July 1941, Japanese forces seized all of French Indochina. Fearing that Japan would use these Indochina bases for an attack on our garrisons in the Philippines, the United States government took action. President Franklin Roosevelt demanded an end to Japanese aggression. To back up his demands, he stopped all sales of American oil to Japan. Oil, the lifeblood of the Japanese war machine. Committed to the conquest of Asia, Japan could not meet American demands without great humiliation. The hardline military leaders had forced Japan into a position from which there was no exit but war. In October, a war leader, General Hideki Tojo, took over as Prime Minister.
The Ronald F. New York, en route